Hi to you for joining in. Hello. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, all of you, for joining in. And if you just join in, could you share so that we have more people joining us? And that will be fantastic. Thank you, Diodene, for joining in. Thank you, Jane, for joining in. And if you just join in, could you indicate where you are? Exactly. Just indicate below where you are. If you're here in this great nations of United States, just indicate below where you are. If you're in ground zero, just indicate you're in ground zero. If you are in South America, just indicate where you are in South America. If you are in Europe, just indicate where you are in Europe. If you're in Asia, just indicate where you are in Asia. If you're in Russia, wherever you are. And I want to thank you for taking opportunity to join me live. And it has been a pleasure having you, and I am so glad seeing you. That's wonderful from Dubai. That's wonderful from Dubai. We have that's the longest distance we have now live. We have one person from Dubai. Thank you so much. And uh, remember that there are several ways that you can get me live. In other words, I have a broader way that I can reach my audience. You can get me on Instagram Live. I also started on Instagram Live as well to accommodate my other audience that can be able to join me in Instagram. And I am also live on Facebook, and I'm also live on Twitter account. You can also get me on Twitter at Funton Daniel or Funton FUNTO08 on my Twitter account. So either way, you will be able to get me on live on as well. And remember that to subscribe to my YouTube account so that you can also have prompt informations as I am live. And there's a lot of things that you can of you for joining me. And another listen, just share so that we have Kama, thank you for joining in. And if you just join in, just share so that we have a broader audience. And I'm so glad to have all of you watching. And it is important, And, we've been talking about the issues, the Southern Cameroon territory that has been ignored but we need to step up our effort more than ever before and to ensure that peace and security can reign in Southern Cameroon. Thank you, Cletus, for joining in. Thank you. So glad to have all of you. And it is very, very, very important at this moment about the Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon has been converted into genocide by La Republique du Cameroon, and it is our duty and all of us in the diaspora and to stand firmly together and protect the Southern Cameroon. The children and mothers, sisters, brothers, they may not be related to you, but we have a common blood, which is that of that we were born there and that we hold an allegiance, that we are more unified and that we are in bond and that our bond cannot be broken by any other bond and that we must stand strong. And those individuals that are attempting to divide us for their selfish interests. And so that is why we must stand together, stand firmly, and protect the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And thank you, Imam, for joining in. And uh, exactly, that's exactly true. That's exactly true. A closed mouth is a closed destiny, and keep spreading the word. I will keep on spreading the word. We must stand firm. We must stand firm. I cannot be in these great nations of the United States and see my peoples crumbling, crumbling, and people distort historical information for their self-interest, and we see the identity of a sovereign people being wiped out in the face of the earth. And I can stand and fold my arms, but I must rise. I must rise. Remember that we have a Democratic Party that will be holding convention here, and I will be taking that message, that strong message, to those listen. So long as I breathe this natural air here in these great nations of the free world, I must stand for the people of Southern Cameroon. My people shall become free, and I cannot see my people become being entangled and being murdered, and children that they ought to be able to leave the breath of the Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is not like in Libya where there is no fertile soil, but the people are they cannot become they have food and they invite La Republic to come and stay with us. And today my people become slavery, and La Republic invade the southern Cameroon. I shall stand with my people until my people is free. And I know there are certain individuals that they form alliance with the Black Legs, but I shall expose every individual of them till we overcome the people of Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon has been a country of admiring, even in the entire West Africa. Nigeria, that is a big giant in West Africa, they have never experienced a political platform until recently. But Southern Cameroon has enjoyed freedom, political elections, and exactly the same structure as the United States. But today, the people are living in the forest. They are being chased out. And that is why I am here to talk about the people of Southern Cameroon. But before I go proceed, let me first of all thank these great nations. United States is the symbol why we are inspired by the government of the United States. We are inspired by the great men and women that make up these great nations. And not only these great nations, but the greatest nation on earth. And therefore, by being a son from Southern Cameroon, and I live in these great nations, and I want to thank the United States government. I want to thank, you may not agree with me why I am thanking the United States president. He is the president of the United States. He has been elected, and we must respect him as the president of the United States. No matter the political circumstances, he is the leader of the United States. And he can always change his leadership after another elections. That's the symbolism and the beauty of these great nations. The country that is ruled by law. You will not agree with me that many of you have been reading the political history. What happens after the election that recently took place here in the United States? There is 60 Russians that have been has been exposed or exposure, whatever the right word is, out of the United States. It's showing that the United States government is firm. No matter whoever is the president, the country stands for their freedom first and any other thing second. No matter whatever the political philosophy, no matter whatever you have, but the government is firm over its policy, and that is what makes these great nations the most beautiful nations on earth. You may not agree with my assessment, but we may all be in the same place to talk about what is the United States. I want to thank the State Department. The State Department, we just have a new Secretary of State who will soon be taking over the helm of the United Department of State. We remember that 24 members of the U.S. Congress wrote a letter to Nikki Haley and the State Department. The purpose is about Southern Cameroon. They may have watched our video. They may have watched how we talk about it. And they have sympathy about us. And we may have written to many of them. And they are stepping up their effort. And we are asking congressmen, as they may be, some may be watching, or some may watch later, that stand for the people who are seeking freedom. They are looking for an example of these great nations. And so I'm asking the U.S. Secretary of State to stand with the Southern Cameroon, because the people has determined for their freedom. Southern Cameroon is not a breakaway country. Southern Cameroon was never a colonial territory of the Republic of Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation. The fact that they have invited La Republique as a cohabiting relationship, and La Republique misconstrued, believing that they have just conquered the Southern Cameroon. And that is the wrong notions. Southern Cameroon has never had any legal binding document. Just the fact that we are cohabiting with La Republique does not give them legal authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. The children and sons and daughters of Southern Cameroon has the sole custodian of their nations, and they should be able to determine at any time that Mr. Republic of Cameroon, hold on, we need to think about our relationship, and the Republic of Cameroon need to come to the table and discuss the issues. And the Southern Cameroon have a choice to say, no, we don't need you at this moment. We have better issues that we can discuss about ourselves. And we will determine whether we need you. And in do so, we will allow you. The Republic of Cameroon has no legal authority over the people of Southern Cameroon. And that is why I am presenting this case to the United States Congress. I am presenting this case to the White House. I am presenting this case to the U.S. Department of Defense. I am presenting this case to the U.S. CIA, because these are essential departments. I am presenting this case to the U.S. Senate. As a matter of fact, if United Nations were functioning as it's up to, and then we would not have arrived at this nature. We would have found our people shot and killed. La République, under the auspices of French authority. The France is behind. France is still behind. France is still behind. And dictating what has to be done in Southern Cameroon. As France still behind, dictating what should be happened to the people of Southern Cameroon. And so this murdering and genocide of Southern Cameroon I mean, I was looking at a video. I was looking at a mom lying in the forest, and his children were covered with shit on the grass that is just been flatter. And I began to wondering, and thus the mother may be thinking, are we seeing what is happening to her and her children? That the child could even be bitten or swallowed by a large python, because that is not even a safe environment. But they are looking for means of survival. And these are the sons and children of the state of Southern Cameroon. And yet, one will wondering, who is the Republic of Cameroon to the people of Southern Cameroon? The fact that we inviting the Republic of Cameroon to cohabit with us as a sovereign nations, and when a mother with a little child just laying down and living there, and she was covered, that's their home in the middle of the forest. I mean, it's painful if you haven't seen those behavior, and the entire world remains silent, and you can see it in the major media. All the major media remains silent because no one cares. And when you speak, when you see the Secretary General of the United Nations, now he's showing images of picture, showing him standing beside Africa, showing that he has love. If you are a Secretary General and you feel that you have love for the African descent, you should have immediately recognized the issues that are affecting the people of Southern Cameroon. As you travel to the West African region, you met Paul Biya, the worst dictatorship in West Africa. When you meet Paul Biya, you should have been very reasonable and respect by showing sense of love and dignity for the people of Southern Cameroon. You should have You were given gold as a matter of reward, that things were getting okay. As a United Nations scribe, as a United Nations Secretary General, it is an obligation to take responsibility and able to visit the area that has been hit hard, that have been affected, so that when you make your judgment, and then you should be making a sound judgment. Because when you see a mother lay in the forest in the middle of a disaster, when his children are being in a subject for python that could be eaten at any moment. We don't know how many have been eaten by animals. We don't know how many has been killed. But what we do know is that when we see the images coming out from the people of Southern Cameroon, that is the painful belief that you will agree with me that it is absolutely that the Republic of Cameroon has no legitimacy over the people of Southern Cameroon. It is very, very disgusting that when incidents happen in the Western Hemisphere, the entire world rushed there and the images will be portrayed all over. But when it comes to African descent, it is a matter of looking into. No one is able to care. And that is why I am presenting this case to not only to the people, but I'm presenting this case to the fellow Americans. I am presenting this case to the fellow US elected officials, because they are in the office and they have the authority to do so. Are they hesitant to do so? Are they deliberately ignored? Southern Cameroon, Southern Cameroon enjoy a meaningful democracy in entire West African history. When we look at the nations that gained their independence after the formation of the United Nations, we look at those that gained independence within the 60s, because Nigeria also gained their independence in the 60s. If Southern Cameroon enjoy a meaningful elections where there is a clean and fair elections, where there is an elected officials like
Mr. Dr. Endele, who was elected the prime minister. Endele showed a very vigorous, sound judgment. He was able to form a cabinet after his victory elections. He presented to the British cabinet, and British recognized his view and recognized the interim cabinet of the people of Southern Cameroon. And in subsequent election, he lost to Jongo Foncha, and he was willing to hand over power. And handing over power was showing a symbolism of the rule of law that prevailed in the Southern Cameroon territory. And despite all this, Southern Cameroon has enjoyed every aspect of moment of political structure. But La République has never, in a single occasion, has any meaningful and trustful election or conducted by La République since the United Nations mandated that all territory that were given to the Allied forces to be prepared for immediate independence. Southern Cameroon has enjoyed this geopolitical freedom and that the transfer of power from one elected officials to the next. But La République hasn't, in any positions, shown this exemplary election or conduct a meaningful election in a simple pluralistic way in the Republic of Cameroon. And that is why I keep on bringing the UPC, because UPC is a political party that existed during the French administration of the Republic of Cameroon. UPC has the potential to win an election if it was conducted in a clear and meaningful way in the Republic of Cameroon. But France, as wicked as it is, it minimized the will of the people over the French self-interest rather than the people of whom they were mandated by the United Nations to prepare them for immediate freedom. And that is why France knew exactly what they want to do. France believed that a free Republic of Cameroon would be detrimental to the French government. And so UPC, as the aspiring to win the election, was banned and described as a terrorist, as the U.S. Central African Regional Representative of the United Nations described the people of Southern Cameroon as terrorists. And that became the framework of the Republic of Cameroon, describing Southern Cameroon as a terrorist, because they got this word from the Central African region, and they use it as symbol for brandish the people of Southern Cameroon. And so it is very, very crucial for us to understand that France has never been in any positive relationship when it comes to African descent. Because should UPC have won elections, political structure of the Republic of Cameroon would have been different. There would have been a meaningful democracy because UPC would have instituted the Republic of Cameroon as a democratic nation. But because France banned the UPC, with Ahidjo in complicity, and so the people of Bamileke, the people of Bassa became the subject of there's one thing that is usually described in France around the 16th or 17th century, they call the guillotine. The guillotine is a form of system where the military cut the head of an individual, and that there is a place that they design, and that when people are being slaughtered, instead your head is sent and they chop your head, and they use the head as a symbolism of their victory and present it to the king as a victory. And this is what they call a guillotine. So many people of the Bamilekes and the Bassas were being guillotined by the French policy in Africa. And so by cutting the head of the UPC, and that is why when French ambassadors stand up to talk, They can't talk clearly because they understand the impact and what they did to the people of Cameroon and those of the French colony in Africa. Many of you may not be aware. Many of you may grow up still young. Many of you still remain ignorant because the factual and historical background were never told. And so that is why many people are rushing to France and look upon France as a meaningful country where they fell in the love. But that is why I am telling you that you may be on the wrong pathway. As you see France, you see the wrong part of France. Because the people of Southern Cameroon shall not in any terms stand against this form of decruciating murdering of citizens. We believe in elected officials. We believe in a debate. We believe that if we have a political party, we should be able to present our case in a meaningful dialogue way. And if the citizens choose us and that we feel that we are capable to govern them, and they should be able to allow us, we shouldn't be a threat and murdering as a means to an end. And that is why people of the Bassas, and they make sure that all historical factual were censored and to ensure that none of the story has ever been told. But Southern Cameroon will not cohabit with the Republic of Cameroon. The Southern Cameroon has bring the Republic of Cameroon to understanding what is meant by a form of federal system of government. A federal system of government is the best in the Western world. It's the best in the Western society. United States practice federal system of government. And you will agree with me that any nation that practice federal system of government is the best in the world and allow giving people an opportunity to decide and work in hand with the other structure of the government. And that creates an umpire and allow citizens an opportunity to share their talent, the guilty person. And to show that you are actually the guilty person. But the Southern Cameroon has always enjoyed the meaningful and true democracy. And that is why we have decided that the best choice for the people of Southern Cameroon is to move forward with the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. We don't need United Nations vote because our vote has already been conducted. We simply react to activate our sovereignty that was voted in 1961 because we find the Republic of Cameroon very offensive. The Republic of Cameroon is very offensive. So, as I'm speaking, we have two Southern Cameroon youth were being shot lively. They were shot a few days ago, and I think I posted their images on my Facebook, on my Twitter account, my Instagram, and everywhere that I have a means of access to expose to the outside world. And as I'm speaking, remember, there is a two differences. Why I keep painting the bad images of France is because when you look at in terms of colonial territory, when Southern Cameroon initial government was in Enugu House of Assembly, and the British highest administrator that was represented in Africa was residing in Nigeria. And he followed the pattern in which the United Nations allowed them that those allied forces should prepare each nation to the immediate eventual independence. And Britain followed those patterns. Britain organized a meaningful elections, and they allowed the Southern Cameroon to make choice. They allowed the Southern Cameroon to choose what they want. There may be a time when they misconstrue, but to the greater extent, Southern Cameroon has to make certain choices. And the best choice was that of the Southern Cameroon. And that was when the Southern Cameroon elect their own prime minister, when they elected their own representative. And when that is why when you look, you see the images of the Southern Cameroon House of Assembly. And when you bring the Republic of Cameroon till when they join, till when they cohabiting with the Southern Cameroon, they don't have any House of Assembly that La Republique can show. If they do, let them put the images. If La Republique want to declare that they have had a meaningful, trustful election, or France can come out and declare being chest out, they will have the potential to be the immediate nations, the immediate winning any sovereign election that was organized. But Southern Cameroon has all their elections that were organized, the cabinet that was formed, and you can list them. I have them on my Facebook. I have them, the list of the interim, the government of Southern Cameroon that was formed and that was presented to the British administrator in the Enugu House of Assembly. Does La Republique has any list that they can present to the French House of Assembly or French Parliament? Do they have? Obviously, you will agree with me that they were ruled by military occupation of France rather than organize a meaningful, trustful election. And this policy of assimilations is something that orchestrated and planned by France as a means to having what they call a 40 years program that they will eventually convert Southern Cameroon to a French hegemony. But I am here to say that hegemony will not work and Southern Cameroon shall overcome. Southern Cameroon shall overcome, and the people must rise, and the people must present and protect their territory. If La Republique was a country that understands and able to listen, they should have invited the Southern Cameroon in a free roundtable conference as prescribed by the Commonwealth Secretary General that visit La Republique, by the United Nations representative. I understand who he was because he described the Southern Cameroon as a terrorist. If I become a terrorist in my home, in my land of birth, and someone from the Republic of Cameroon become the rightful person, I get it. I get it. I get it. And I know many of you, the Republic of Cameroon, by United Nations Central African Regional Representative, describing Southern Cameroon as a terrorist and recognize the Republic of Cameroon as the truthful person. Who is more of a terrorist? The Republic of Cameroon that has invaded Southern Cameroon when the children are living in the forest? When the 60,000 citizens of Southern Cameroon are languishing in Nigeria, having a one meal in 24 hours, and they become terrorists in their own homeland, in their own territory, because they invited a cohabiting relationship with the Republic of Cameroon, and they become the subject being described by international community. That is a factual that I can get it. When the world misconstrue, when the world misjudge, when the world can reason as a matured people, or they have people insane mental inability to make sound judgment, and make proper investigation, find out exactly what is the true story, and giving that credentialed true story to the general world. And when he stood up and describing in the middle of the United Nations that the people of Southern Cameroon are terrorists, and then I began to wondering his mental judgment, his mental capability, his reasoning faculty, and where he learned his education. Where did he get it, and how did he get that position? Was he appointed by acclamation? And you will agree with me that the Secretary General of the United Nations was never elected. He was simply appointed by acclamation. And that is why he don't even know, qualify having a historical fact about what is Southern Cameroon. And I'm sure he should have investigated and find out from good knowledge and good account, and before going to the air and speak to the general world. Another ignorance is someone called Francois Lefort. And I have been questioning his judgment. I have been questioning his mental capability. I have been questioning the fact that he happened to be a prime minister for 24 hours in his country doesn't give him guarantee and knowledge to stand make judgment in United Nations. He doesn't. Francois Lefort, and much of that we are being surrendered by French. And that is the French making decisions in the United Nations. And that is why I keep on asking Britain. Britain remains silent. The true historical fact is British. The British should be able immediately report to the United Nations and address the Southern Cameroon crisis. They should have stepped up. That is why I am wondering whether the British representative to the United Nations is also sound. Because I have a question to ask. Because when I see in the middle of the world and people misconstrue, giving wrong analysis and wrong judgment and giving wrong factual information, that should have been a call for the British to respond immediately. It is a call for the British to respond immediately. Southern Cameroon has demonstrated everywhere and every part of the world. They have shown that the relationship with the Republic of Cameroon is not longer valid, and they want their own citizens to be the deciding member of their own jurisdiction. Why do you think Southern Cameroon can be independent? Why do you think Southern Cameroon must need the Republic of Cameroon? For what reasons? Any justifications to indicate that you feel and you are sure that Southern Cameroon ought to be with the Republic of Cameroon, and under what circumstances? There is no circumstances that can substantiate that Southern Cameroon must live with the Republic of Cameroon. Southern Cameroon has been an independent nation and has exercised those independency and has shown to the world. And do you imagine that those of the 60s are more intelligent, are more focused, are more reasonable, are more sound than the current people of this current generation? If they recognize that Southern Cameroon, and they also voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, why do the current world generation believe that Southern Cameroon ought to remain the property of La Republique? You will agree with me that that wrong notion or wrong judgment running into the wrong conclusion is the factual that has been orchestrated by the French in the United Nations. And that is why they saw the current Secretary General, Francois Guterres, as a scapegoat to lead the United Nations, as a scapegoat to foster French hegemony, as a scapegoat to listen to whatever France choose, as a scapegoat for world community. It is regretful. It is regretful. It is. It is regretful. It is regretful. 7 days a week, and no issues will be told on the major media. But we have 60,000 Southern Cameroon. Remember, just a small hut that was burnt in Russia. The entire world was all over the major media. The entire world was all over the media. And when it comes to the black race, it is silent. It is silent. Because few people that was affected in that incident, the entire media was all over. There's no major media that you can tune and you wouldn't find everything there. But we have there is each of the 60,000 that are living on a single meal in 24 hours in Southern Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is an independent nation. Southern Cameroon is never a conquered territory of the Republic of Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is a nation that has their own independence recognized by United Nations. But out of the 60,000, no major media will be able to mention about it. No major media can talk about it. All major media remain silent. But incidents about North Korea, all the entire major media are focusing on that issue. They will show a minute by minute, movement by movement, and all aspects of it to show to the world. But we have 60,000 citizens are now living on a single meal in 24 hours in Southern Cameroon territory. The Anglophone speaking. That United States and other rest of the international community voted recognize them as a sovereign nations. The Southern Cameroon has formed an interim government, and the people recognize the interim government, and they were being adopted in Nigeria. And up to now that I'm speaking, it's almost 2 or 3 months. There is no evidence of life showing that they are living. The entire world community remains silent. The entire world community remains silent. No one is talking about it. No major media can talk about it. And so because it is on the dark race, the people of Africa, the people of descent, that is the geopolitical structure that has been implemented in the rest of the world. One will wonder, and now when we, it's not that I'm very critical, but I'm speaking a factual story. I'm speaking a factual information that is happening. I am speaking the factual information that is happening. The interim government of the Southern Cameroon that was formed, they have paraded here in the United States. They have paraded in Britain. They have paraded in Germany. They were adopted by the Republic of Cameroon with complicity of the Nigerian government. And the world community remains silent. No one cared to talk about it. No one think that it is something of priority that Africa needs to be bring into the live community. But when we move, why is Africa not even a key member in the United Nations in the first place? Because of these manipulations, because of this control, because of this confinement of the African descent has become the issues of the world because they have to remain silent. If the world would have recognized that Southern Cameroon interim government, the acting president of Federal Republic of Ambazonian, were adopted, that should have been an issue that should have been raised a flag. Another clear example that I wanted to talk about is when the British voted to join the European Union, or they call the European Union, British voted to join the European Union, and they were accepted. And the same Britain voted against the European Union, and that they have chosen to remain separate from the European Union. It was immediately recognized by the rest of the world community and accepted And there was no evidence of war. There was no evidence of fighting. Everything was normal. But when Southern Cameroon choose their own independence, it became to the world as a secession. It was immediately brandished secession. When the British chosen to separate from the European Union, they were never brandished secession. That is the joke, Confucianists that been branded by the rest of the world against the people of Southern Cameroon. When the Southern Cameroon, again, when the British choose to remain separate from the United European Union, nobody brandished the Britain as secessionists. They simply recognize the people of Britain as a separate nations, and that they have chosen to remain separate. And they immediately recognize their vote. And the Prime Minister immediately recognized. But when the people of Southern Cameroon choose to leave La Republic, it is immediately brandished by the international community as a secessionist. Give me, I think one of my this thing. Okay, so I was speaking about the British. When the Britain choose to leave the European Union, the British were never branded the secessionists. They were never regarded as whatever the brandished Southern Cameroon. They immediately recognize the will of the people of Britain and they immediately accept their wishes. But when it comes to the African descent, it was immediately brandished the secessionists. Who are we seceding from? The Republic of Cameroon? And how do we initially, what they failed to ask, how do we arrive in that relationship? It doesn't matter. They don't even think about it. But immediately what they comes to their mind is the secessionist and reforms. Who are we seceding from? The Republic of Cameroon? How do we get there? A cohabiting relationship become a seceding relationship. True. Exactly. That's what they say. But this is United Nations vote. This is the nations that voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And that is what I am concluding here. That is what I am concluding here. That is why I am concluding here. The United Nations General Assembly, 1608 XV of 21 April 1961, here in the United States of America. It's not elsewhere. It's not in China. It's not in Russia. It's not in Europe. It's here in the great nations of the United States. And the United Nations General Assembly, 994 plenary meeting on Friday, April 1961. In that meeting, 1961 at 3 p.m. in New York, United Nations 15 General Assembly President, Boland of Ireland, United Nations General Assembly, 15 General Assembly Vice President, Mr. Xian of China. Rapporteur at the committee was Boeing of Denmark. Those were the leaders of that stood for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And they were for vote for the independence of Southern Cameroon to take effectively October 1. Because I know many people ask, what is October 1? And many people doesn't aware why do Southern Cameroon celebrate October 1. For example, let's take a note. The Republic of Cameroon, they don't celebrate their Independence Day. They don't even know their Independence Day because the true fact has not been taught in school. The Republic of Cameroon doesn't know the historical data. They don't know when the Republic of Cameroon granted their independence because they never celebrated. They distort information and give wrong, inaccurate information to the children and to the descendants. And now if you call a French citizen, you call a French Cameroon and ask them on the spot, when was the Republic of Cameroon got their independence? Absolutely, in 20 of them, none of them will be able to give you accurate information when the Republic of Cameroon has their independence. Because they distort information, give inaccurate information, and taught inaccurate information, and they assimilate inaccurate information. And now they're living with inaccurate information. And so Southern Cameroon, in this plenary session on April 21, that the General Assembly was meeting, voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And the immediate effective date was October 1. And that is the day Southern Cameroon recognized officially by the United Nations General Assembly. And so Southern Cameroon became as independent nation. And so October 1 is the day the Southern Cameroon celebrate worldwide as the independence of Southern Cameroon. Get this message clear. 64 nations voted, 23 vote against, and 10 abstained. Of those 64 nations that voted include the following: Honduras, Hungary, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Ireland, Japan, Jordan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Mali, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Norway, Pakistan, Philippines, Poland, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Sweden, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, Union of South Africa, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, United Arabs, United Kingdom, or Great Britain, Northern Ireland, United States of America, that's United States, the government of United States, Venezuela, Yemen, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Albania, Australia, Austria, Bolivia, Bulgaria, Burma, Czechoslovakia, Canada, Ceylon, Chile, Costa Rica, Cuba, Cyprus, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Ethiopia, Federation of Malaysia, Finland, Ghana, and Guinea. So the Sub-Central African Regional Representative that described the Southern Cameroon as a terrorist is not even aware of the historical factual information that his nation voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And he was not even aware, and he was not even get his factual information before presenting it to the world body. And the world body just assimilate and accommodate the information and just stood up and regard Southern Cameroon as a terrorist. I asking the world community, if you have someone and cannot inaccurate give true factual information, that person should be out of a job. That person shouldn't have a job. That person shouldn't. He shouldn't have a job. But today he's still there because he collided with the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, and then giving wrong informations and wrong information. And then what happened is that crisis erupted in the rest of the world and become the subject of their meetings in the United Nations, and while the suffering continued in the rest of the world. It is very, very unbelievable. It is very, absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely. Absolutely unbelievable. And the same United Nations document, it says, in setting up international trusteeship system, the charter established a trusteeship council, one of the main organs of the United Nations, and assigned to its task of supervising the administration of trustee territories places under the trustee